Again, Daniel Nkola. I know
Yeah.
that introduction was cut short.
No, Daniel, thank you, and thanks for being flexible with us.
Not a problem. The first thing I wanted to ask was, how are you? Because I imagine you've been awake for what's coming to 24 hours now.
Yeah, so it is 1:30. I got up at 4:30 yesterday, so about 3 hours away from 24 hours. I feel really good. I mean, I feel really good because there are people at 1:30 a.m. on a Monday morning coming out to do something really important for the country, and then we get to be part of that. Is just awesome. So I feel good.
Okay, the next question. So this one, okay, to what degree do you support the use of eminent domain to revitalize, and how can the state avoid excessive gentrification and displacement?
Yeah, so I think anytime you're going to use one of the most significant powers of the state to, through the court system, take the private property of somebody in this country, there better be a very good public use for that. If there is an infrastructure project that, but for this one parcel, it can't be completed, and the public depends on that infrastructure being completed, I think that's an appropriate use of eminent domain. But I think those circumstances should be exceedingly rare, and should be based on the input of all the stakeholders who are going to be affected in a given community.
What steps should be taken between now and the election date in November to eradicate or at least curtail voter suppression in the state of Texas?
Well, as you know, the courts have found, I think 4 separate times last year, that people have been drawn out of their congressional districts based on their race and their ethnicity and their perceived party affiliation. And while the courts have mandated that the state redraw those maps, it does not look like they're going to be drawn in time for this election. And so what I think we have to do, at least on a statewide basis and running a statewide campaign, is give people a reason to vote and participate in this election that transcends the active effort to suppress their voice and their vote. That includes not just the gerrymandering, but the voter ID laws and other efforts that seek to keep some people out of the political process. So the thing that I can control is the way in which I run this campaign, and the people that I seek to bring into this campaign. If I were able to influence the state to adopt a citizen-led redistricting commission without any politicians, I would do that. I'm on a bill at the federal level that would require states to do that, and I would look for greater participation from both parties to be able to accomplish that.
I love that. Wow, so what do you think the role is of young people in creating a safer and more equitable America?
It's funny because Michelle asked me a question about, why would young people get involved in this election? I don't think the outcome that you described can be achieved without young people actively participating in the political process. And I don't just mean voting, although that's incredibly important. I mean running for office, seeking seats on the school board, on the city council, on the commissioner's court, in Congress, in the United States Senate. I think it is only when you have that level of representation that the issues that are unique to young people, that young people have a better perspective on, whether they be education, student loan debt, the war on drugs, or the aspirational challenges that I feel like young people respond to and want to lead on perhaps better than anyone else. Whatever those big things are that we are going to achieve as a country, reversing the trajectory we're on right now with regards to climate change, or curing the diseases that have plagued mankind for forever. Those are things that we can do, but it's going to take really ambitious aspirational leadership to get that done.
I agree, and I think that I haven't seen so many of my peers invested in a candidate, I think, ever since you. So, and of course, that's something that we have to keep going to. So, I guess what I'm saying is I'm excited about what you're bringing to Texas. And I wanted to ask how we could mend the distrust of law enforcement that has developed in some of the communities they police.
You know, perhaps something helpful has happened in this presidency, in the Trump administration, in that it has laid bare some things that have always been there, have been unacknowledged by some because they're inconvenient or uncomfortable, and endured by others because it is a fact of life. When people talk about the war on drugs being effectively the new Jim Crow in America, I don't know that that's too far off the mark in terms of the effect and the consequence of drug laws. The fact that we have the largest prison population in the world, we put more of our own behind bars largely for nonviolent drug offenses that are enforced and prosecuted disproportionately at the expense of some, sparing the majority. And I think by starting with our criminal justice system, as well as our democracy, going back to the racial and ethnic gerrymandering and the effort to suppress people at the ballot box, ending the war on drugs has become a war on people, and ensuring that to the degree we can, we give everybody an equal shot at success in this country. That absolutely does not exist today, and it is everything from education, quality schools, regardless of where you live in the community. It means access to capital when you have entrepreneurs who want to start businesses and have a chance to employ others and take their idea and see if it can fly. And I think it means taking on some really difficult issues like the heritage that so much of the South has yet to fully confront and acknowledge, and we're just beginning to do with debates around statues and plaques and who's commemorated and who's honored and who's in a position of reverence in a community. I mean, you asked a really thoughtful, important question. Those are all things that I would want to work on with people who'd be willing to lead and hopefully make things better.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This will be the last question, and this is where it gets kind of meta. It's good that the live stream isn't running in this moment because the
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh, hi.
It's always running.
It's about
24/7 there.
Yeah, this one's about social media and how you've sort of, I feel like some politicians shy away from it because it can be a double-edged sword sometimes.
Yeah.
And your opponent, Ted Cruz, has had a very interesting relationship with users on Twitter, for example, versus you, who I think you've used it pretty effectively thus far, if the live stream is evidence. What do you think the role of social media is in our political process going forward when you look at the ways that it makes candidates accessible, but then also the ways that it can be co-opted allegedly by outside agents and also perpetuating false headlines at times? How do you think society will deal with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't read the article. There was the lead article in the New York Times yesterday was about these factories that produce followers. That was the analogy they used, where there are Hollywood celebrities and politicians and prominent business leaders who have basically purchased followers to inflate their prominence, I guess. You have in the 2016 election, Russian-sponsored social media actors who promoted fake news headlines and served misleading or dangerous false information to people based on their, how they perceived, their biases to operate. I don't know how you fix that, and I don't know how you protect people, and I think that's something we've got to figure out. And I don't know what it is, because you don't ever want to abridge someone's right to go out and seek information or be able to share their perspective or their point of view or their opinion. And yet you have to acknowledge that something very wrong happened in the 2016 election, and to acknowledge that social media is for many the primary source for information in their lives. And so yeah, I think that's a challenge. But I'm glad you raised it. I mean, you may be the one who figures it out. Maybe somebody else who follows us. I don't know, but we should try to do it. Sorry, one. Okay. Should I?
Where do you want me to park? Anywhere?
Should I head in with you? Okay.
Alrighty.
Chris, you need me to do anything?
Would you want to switch spots so I can take the live stream with him, or? Yeah, is that okay? It's gonna be a big crowd in there, so I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's me, Jade.
Not that guy.
There was one shot outside. I don't know how that's gonna work now. But you guys do what you need to do. I know people have been waiting very long. Thank you for taking the time and for the ride to Kirby
Of course, yeah. I'm glad that you came. Glad that you were willing to be flexible in where we did the interview. I would love to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Maybe we could continue over a plate of Kirby queso. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm open to it. Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Or during the Q&A, you can ask
Follow for follow.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
good to see you again.
You really are dedicated to that, aren't you?
Yeah, alrighty.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Daniel, thoughts? Beto, I'm just gonna park right
Wow.